What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. You know who I am. Welcome back to another episode of Film Stock Reviews. In this episode, I'm reviewing News of the World. The movie stars Tom Hanks as a Civil War veteran, a Jefferson Kyle kid, who goes around telling the news to different towns. The setting is in Texas during the Civil War or after the Civil War, and the trials and tribulations and repercussions that happen during this time. All the while, he has to take a girl back to her home after being kidnapped by Native Americans. And this movie, from start to finish, is very, very interesting. The cinematography aspect by Paul Greengrass, who also directed and wrote it, was very, very interesting. If you want to know how a 3-act structure in a movie is done, with a beginning, middle, and end, where each act ends or begins, this is the movie to watch, because you know where Act 1 ends, you know where Act 2 begins, where Act 2 ends, where Act 3 begins, and where Act 3 ends, which is the ending of the movie. Tom Hanks gives a stellar performance in this role, and just seeing the musical score and the editing and how everything was done was really, really good. Now, I do want to say that Helena Zengel as the young girl, Johanna, was really, really outstanding. She stood on her own as being a top performer alongside Tom Hanks, and not many can say that. Now, I did like this movie for what it was. It was very emotional. It was in your face. It just kept going one way or another. Of course, some people might think, oh, they're just traveling the West or in Texas trying to find things. It's repetitive scenes over and over again. It's not that at all. This movie is good for what it is. The writing is great, and it has an aspect where, as you're watching a Western like this, it doesn't feel like a Western, because Tom Hanks' character does have a history himself. Of course, he went off to the war, and he comes back home, and then things start unraveling, and then you think like, oh, everything's okay, but no, it's not. He himself has a backstory that we don't find out until the very, very end. I'm very surprised that Tom Hanks did a movie like this, because you really don't see Tom Hanks doing a Western or a epic movie like this. It's a Western drama, and not many movies that are out now are called Westerns, or there hasn't been a good Western movie in so long. Granted, back to the 50s and 60s, there were a lot of Western movies directed by John Ford and starring John Wayne, and Clint Eastwood. But this is a different take on the modern day Western movie. Seeing Paul Greengrass direct a movie like this was interesting, because he's known for the Jason Bourne movies, and he directed United 93, which received Oscar praise when that movie came out. So it's interesting to see how this movie goes about becoming what this movie is. And like I said, each character in this movie, basically just Tom Hanks' character and Helena Zengel's character, are like the father-daughter relationship. They're estranged in the beginning, and as the movie comes closer to the end, they become closer. And Tom Hanks is a great, great actor. He gives a stellar performance, and he deserves all the recognition he gets in this role, because it's really, really good. Like I said, I like this movie for what it was. It was not slow at all. It was very fast-paced. And when the fast-paced action scenes happen, it keeps you engaged. It keeps you informed. It keeps you wanting more, which is what a Western movie is supposed to do. Oh, who's this bad guy? Who's that bad guy? It's very, very hard to, dissect the two when it's a Western movie. But it's really, really good. The only interesting thing I had that was wrong with this movie was that the nighttime scenes were dimly lit. Of course, that back in the day, of course, during the 1800s, during those times, they only had candlelight, and it was very dim. But if a movie's using natural light, which I believe this movie did, because a lot of filmmakers are going to that natural light progression of using that in movies, which gives it a real look and feel to it. I mean, the movie The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio used natural light, and you can tell that it did. So it looks like they used natural light in this movie, which was really, really good. But like I said, if they just upped the dimness factor of the nighttime scenes, the movie could have been a little bit better. But I just don't want to say that, just the lighting aspect of it brought this movie down for me, because it didn't. And like I said, the directing is great. The cinematography is great. The musical score is really, really good. Has that Western feel to it, and seeing the setting and the landscape of the vast horizon in the distance as they're, going on and traveling in the wagon with the horses is really, really good. Because the landscape, the sky, everything around them is a setting in itself and is a character in itself, because they have to play on into that by, hiding from the bad guys, or, going through certain, obstacles that Mother Nature brings to them, which I don't want to get into because it's an interesting, powerful, impactful part of the movie. For me, News of the World gets 5 out of 5 stars. So let me know in the comment section below what you thought about News of the World. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you enjoy it? And what rating would you give it? And do you think that this is Tom Hanks' best performance in a movie? And how did you think Helena Zengel did? And do you see her becoming the next big young star in Hollywood? And what rating would you give this movie? And have you seen any other movie like this that is a Western or has that same kind of feel and story to it? Let me know to the questions I just asked in the comment section below. And be sure you click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell for new videos on my channel. And you know where to follow Marchio Productions and me, Mr. Filmstock. I'll leave a link to all the social media accounts in the description box below. You guys can check it out and follow along. I'm Anthony. Thanks for tuning in.